Have you ever felt your heart racing, palms sweating, and mind going completely blank at the worst possible moment? Perhaps it was during that crucial job interview, while giving an important presentation, or when making a high-stakes decision that could change everything. That overwhelming sensation of pressure that seems to hijack your body and mind precisely when you need your full capabilities the most. Has this ever happened to you? That moment when pressure transforms you from a capable, confident person into someone you barely recognize. If so, you're not alone. In fact, this response is something millions of people experience every single day across countless situations. What if I told you that this reaction isn't a personal failure or weakness, but rather a completely natural, physiological response that's been programmed into your system for thousands of years? The truth is, pressure isn't the enemy. It's simply your body's ancient survival mechanism trying to protect you in a modern world where the threats are psychological rather than physical. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what you're about to discover might completely transform how you experience high-pressure situations for the rest of your life. The techniques and insights I'm about to share have helped thousands of people, from Fortune 500 executives to professional athletes to everyday individuals, develop an unshakable composure even when everything around them feels like it's falling apart. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Now let's talk about what's really happening in your body when pressure strikes. That racing heart, those rapid breaths, the tunnel vision. It's all part of your fight or flight response, a complex cascade of hormones, including adrenaline and cortisol, that floods your system within seconds. This response evolved to help our ancestors escape predators or fight for their lives. But in our modern world, it activates during job interviews, public speaking, or difficult conversations. What's fascinating is that the intensity of this response varies dramatically from person to person. What triggers overwhelming pressure for you might barely register for someone else. Some people freeze when speaking in front of groups, while others thrive in the spotlight but crumble under tight deadlines. These individual pressure triggers are like fingerprints, uniquely yours, and shaped by your personal experiences, beliefs, and even genetics. The key to mastering pressure isn't eliminating these responses. That's impossible and actually counterproductive. Instead, it's about developing a relationship with pressure where you can harness its energy while preventing it from overwhelming your cognitive abilities. It's about training yourself to stay in that optimal zone where pressure enhances your performance rather than diminishes it. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through a comprehensive approach to pressure management that goes far beyond the typical "just take a deep breath" advice. We'll explore science-backed techniques that actually reprogram how your brain and body respond when the stakes are high. The strategies I'm about to share work, whether you're facing a critical presentation at work, a difficult conversation with a loved one, or even a life-changing decision that's keeping you up at night. If you found value in these pressure management techniques, hit that subscribe button to join our community of resilience builders. I share proven strategies for mental performance and emotional mastery that you won't find elsewhere. Here's something crucial to understand on your pressure mastery journey. Not all pressure is created equal. In fact, there's a profound difference between healthy pressure that propels you forward and the unhealthy kind that paralyzes you. Think of Olympic athletes who perform their best under the spotlight, or musicians who deliver their most magical performances before massive crowds. They're not immune to pressure. They've simply learned to transform it into fuel rather than letting it become their kryptonite. The hidden truth most people never realize is that the line Between pressure that energizes and pressure that overwhelms often comes down to one thing: your mindset. This is where the incredible power of the mind-body connection reveals itself in ways that can completely transform your relationship with high-stakes situations. Your thoughts aren't just abstract concepts floating in your consciousness. They're powerful chemical triggers that directly impact your physical state. When you think, "I can't handle this," your body responds accordingly, amplifying your stress response and creating a self-fulfilling prophecy of underperformance. But shift that thought to, "I'm prepared and ready for this challenge," and something remarkable happens. Your body actually begins to calm itself, releasing different neurotransmitters that support clear thinking and optimal functioning. This revelation about the mind-body connection isn't just theoretical. It's the foundation for practical tools that can create immediate shifts in how you experience pressure. One of the most powerful tools in your pressure management arsenal is something you're doing right now without even thinking about it: breathing. But not just any breathing, strategic, controlled breathing that directly communicates safety to your nervous system. Let me share a technique that's been a game changer for many: the 4-7-8 breathing method. When you feel pressure mounting, inhale quietly through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold that breath for 7 seconds, and then exhale completely through your mouth for 8 seconds. This isn't just a distraction, it's a physiological intervention that lowers cortisol levels, reduces heart rate, and restores blood flow to the rational parts of your brain that pressure tends to shut down. What makes this approach so powerful is that it breaks the cycle of escalating tension. By focusing on your breath, you interrupt the cascade of stress hormones and create a moment of clarity, a pocket of calm in which your best thinking can emerge. The beauty of breathwork is that it's always available to you, completely free and invisible to others. You can use it right in the middle of a high-stakes meeting without anyone knowing you're actively managing your internal state. Now, I want to go even deeper into the remarkable ways your body and mind can work together to create an unshakable foundation of composure, even when everything around you seems chaotic. The integration of specific physical techniques with targeted mental strategies creates a powerful synergy that can completely rewire your default response to pressure. Have you noticed how certain situations trigger your pressure response instantly, while others that objectively might be more challenging don't affect you at all? Write in the comments, "My pressure trigger is," and share what specific situations tend to activate your stress response the most. Understanding your personal pressure patterns is the first step toward transforming them. Understanding your unique pressure triggers reveals another fascinating aspect of your pressure response: physical tension. Have you ever noticed how your shoulders creep up toward your ears during a stressful conversation? Or how your jaw clenches tight when you're facing a deadline? This unconscious muscle tension isn't just a side effect of pressure, it actually amplifies your stress response in a powerful feedback loop. But here's where your journey toward pressure mastery takes an exciting turn. Through a technique called progressive muscle relaxation, you can reverse this cycle and transform your physical state, which then influences your mental clarity. The technique is beautifully simple, yet profoundly effective. Deliberately tense a muscle group, like your shoulders, for about 5 seconds. Then release and notice the sensation of relaxation flooding that area. When you systematically work through your body this way, from your toes to your forehead, you're essentially reprogramming your nervous system's default response. The revelation here is that by consciously controlling your physical state, you're sending powerful signals to your brain that you're safe, even when the circumstances around you might be challenging. This mind-body harmony creates a foundation for clear thinking exactly when you need it most. Now let's explore another transformative technique used by elite performers across virtually every high-stakes domain. Behind the scenes of Olympic competitions, crucial business negotiations and life-saving medical procedures, you'll find practitioners using the same powerful mental tool, visualization. When you vividly imagine yourself handling a pressure situation with composure and skill, experiencing the sights, sounds, and even physical sensations in your mind, you're actually creating neural pathways that your brain can access during the real event. It's like installing software that runs automatically when you need it. The more detailed and multi-sensory your visualization, the more effective this mental rehearsal becomes. This practice isn't just positive thinking, it's a deliberate mental training that reshapes your default response to pressure. Neuroscience has confirmed that visualization activates many of the same brain regions as actually performing the activity, creating a kind of mental muscle memory that you can draw on when the real situation arises. Building on this foundation of physical and mental techniques, we arrive at one of the most practical strategies for pressure-proofing your life: establishing consistent routines. The most composed individuals rarely face high-stakes situations with an improvisational approach. Instead, they develop specific rituals that create islands of certainty amid the chaos. Think about what happens backstage before a Broadway performance or in the locker room before a championship game. These routines aren't superstitions. They're strategic anchors that provide predictability and control during unpredictable circumstances. Whether it's a specific sequence of stretches, a particular way of organizing your materials, or even just 3 deep breaths before entering a challenging situation, these patterns become powerful allies in your pressure management toolkit. When you develop your own pressure-proof routines, you're essentially creating a personal sanctuary that travels with you into any high-stakes environment. Drop a comment below with "My pre-pressure ritual includes," and share one thing you do, or will start doing, before facing challenging situations. These personal rituals lead us naturally to one of the most powerful yet often overlooked dimensions of pressure mastery: thorough preparation. Behind every seemingly effortless performance under pressure lies hours, sometimes years, of diligent groundwork. This preparation isn't just about knowledge or skill, it's about creating such deep familiarity with your material or task that parts of it become automatic, freeing your mental resources to handle the unexpected elements that pressure situations often introduce. Think about it this way. When you've thoroughly researched that presentation, when you've practiced those difficult conversations, when you've anticipated potential objections or challenges, you're creating a reservoir of confidence that becomes your refuge when pressure mounts. This behind-the-scenes work might not be glamorous, but it creates a foundation that transforms how you experience high-stakes situations. But even with the most meticulous preparation, we can still feel overwhelmed if we're interpreting the situation through a lens of threat rather than opportunity. This is where the transformative power of cognitive reframing enters the picture. The hidden truth about pressure is that much of it comes not from the situation itself, but from the meaning we attach to it. Consider 2 people facing identical circumstances, perhaps giving the same important presentation. One sees it as a terrifying judgment of their worth, while the other views it as an exciting chance to share ideas they care about. Same external reality, radically different internal experience. This isn't positive thinking. It's a deliberate practice of questioning your automatic interpretations and consciously choosing more empowering perspectives. When you reframe a make-or-break moment as one important step in my journey, when you shift from "I might fail" to "I'm learning," regardless of outcome, you're literally changing the biochemistry of your pressure response. Your heart might still beat faster, but that racing heart becomes a sign of healthy engagement rather than debilitating fear. This conscious reframing directly influences another crucial element of your pressure response: your inner dialogue. The conversations happening inside your mind during high-pressure moments can either be your greatest ally or your worst enemy. Most people don't realize how dramatically their self-talk shapes their physical and mental capacity under pressure. When that inner critic whispers, "You're going to mess this up," or "They'll see you don't belong here," it triggers cascades of stress hormones that compromise your performance. The revelation is that you can systematically transform this inner dialogue by developing specific, supportive statements tailored to your pressure situations. Phrases like, "I've prepared for this," or "I can handle whatever comes." You're creating mental shortcuts that bypass your default stress response. With practice, these positive self-talk patterns become your automatic inner voice during pressure moments, completely altering your experience and performance. What's one pressure situation you're currently facing where you could apply cognitive reframing? Drop it in the comments with "I'm reframing" and share how you could view it differently after watching this video so far. This transformation of your inner dialogue connects directly to another powerful dimension of pressure mastery: mindfulness. If you pay close attention to your experience during high-pressure moments, you'll notice something fascinating. Pressure rarely exists in the present moment. Instead, it's almost always about projecting into an imagined future, "What if I fail?" or ruminating on the past, "I should have prepared more." The present moment, by contrast, is typically manageable, even when challenging. Mindfulness practice, the deliberate training of your attention to rest in the present, offers a sanctuary from pressure-induced anxiety. By anchoring your awareness to your breath, to physical sensations, or simply to the task directly in front of you, you're short-circuiting the tendency to spiral into catastrophic thinking. This isn't about ignoring real challenges, it's about bringing your full resources to bear on what's actually happening now, rather than being distracted by what might happen later. This is just the beginning of our journey into peak performance psychology. Subscribe now and you'll get powerful science-backed techniques delivered directly to you. Join thousands of others who are transforming how they handle life's challenges. The revelation here is that pressure management isn't just about handling pressure when it arrives. It's about preventing unnecessary pressure from building up in the first place. This is where strategic time management becomes a crucial element in your pressure-proofing journey. Many of the most intense pressure situations we face are self-created through procrastination, unrealistic scheduling, or the failure to break complex projects into manageable pieces. When you approach important tasks with a strategic timeline, when you create buffer zones around high-stakes deadlines, when you segment large challenges into smaller milestone victories, you're essentially designing your environment to minimize avoidable pressure. This behind-the-scenes preparation doesn't eliminate pressure entirely, nor would you want it to, but it ensures that you're experiencing productive pressure rather than paralyzing overwhelm. This strategic approach to managing pressure points to a deeper truth. Pressure resilience isn't something you're simply born with. It's a capacity you can deliberately cultivate, much like physical fitness. Just as you wouldn't attempt to run a marathon without training, you can't expect to handle major pressure situations without building your mental stamina through progressive challenges. Think of pressure resilience as a muscle that strengthens with appropriate stress, followed by recovery. When you intentionally expose yourself to small, manageable pressure situations, perhaps speaking up in a meeting when you'd normally stay silent, or having that difficult conversation you've been avoiding, you're essentially doing pressure push-ups. Each challenge slightly stretches your capacity, and with consistent practice, situations that once felt overwhelming become merely stimulating. The mindset shift here is profound. Instead of avoiding all discomfort, you begin to see these small pressure moments as opportunities for growth. You recognize that each time you step into a challenging situation and survive it, which you always do, You're adding a reference point of success to your psychological toolkit. This gradual accumulation of evidence that you can indeed handle difficult moments becomes a powerful ally when facing bigger challenges. If you've been avoiding a specific pressure situation in your life that might actually help you grow, share it with a "This week I'll challenge myself to," and let us know what small step you're going to take toward building your pressure resilience. This journey to pressure mastery extends beyond your mind into the physical foundation that supports your entire stress response system. There's a hidden truth that many people overlook when trying to improve their performance under pressure. Your physical state profoundly influences your mental resilience. The body-mind connection works in both directions, creating either an upward spiral of composure or a downward spiral of overwhelm. Regular physical activity stands as one of the most powerful yet underutilized tools in your pressure management arsenal. When you exercise, whether that's through structured workouts, dance classes, hiking, or simply taking brisk walks, you're literally changing your body's biochemical response to stress. Physical activity helps metabolize excess stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, essentially clearing your system of the very chemicals that create that overwhelmed feeling during high-pressure situations. The revelation here isn't just that exercise helps you feel better in the moment, it's that consistent physical activity actually recalibrates your entire nervous system over time. Your baseline stress levels decrease, your recovery from pressure situations happens more quickly, and your threshold for what feels overwhelming increases dramatically. This transformation doesn't require becoming an elite athlete. Research shows that even moderate activity, like a 20-minute daily walk, creates significant improvements in stress resilience. Complementing this physical foundation is the often overlooked influence of nutrition on your pressure response. The foods you eat directly impact your brain chemistry, energy levels, and how efficiently your body processes stress hormones. Behind the scenes of every pressure situation is a biochemical reality that can either support or undermine your performance. Consider how differently you might handle a challenging conversation after consuming a sugar-laden breakfast versus a balanced meal with protein, healthy fats, and complex carbohydrates. The first scenario sets you up for energy spikes and crashes that amplify anxiety, while the second provides steady fuel that supports clear thinking and emotional regulation. Similarly, excessive caffeine can mimic and amplify the physical symptoms of anxiety. Racing heart, shallow breathing, heightened alertness, making normal pressure feel like overwhelming stress. The third pillar in this physical foundation is perhaps the most powerful, yet most frequently sacrificed: sleep. In our achievement-oriented culture, sleep is often treated as a luxury rather than the biological necessity it truly is. The science is unequivocal. Sleep deprivation dramatically impairs your brain's prefrontal cortex, the very region responsible for emotional regulation, impulse control, and rational decision-making under pressure. When you consistently get 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep, you're strengthening the neural networks that help you remain composed when challenges arise. This isn't about sleeping more to avoid problems. It's about ensuring your brain has the resources it needs to navigate complexity with clarity. A well-rested mind can distinguish between genuine threats and mere challenges, can access creative solutions more readily, and can maintain perspective when pressure mounts. What's one physical aspect of pressure management, exercise, nutrition, or sleep, where you could make a small improvement this week? Comment below with "My physical pressure proofing starts with," and share your commitment. While these physical foundations provide essential support for your pressure management system, we humans don't exist in isolation. The social dimension of pressure resilience offers another powerful resource that many people underutilize during challenging times. There's a compelling revelation in the research on stress and pressure. The simple presence of supportive relationships dramatically buffers your physiological and psychological response to high-stakes situations. Think about the difference between facing a challenging situation completely alone versus knowing you have people in your corner. This isn't just about feeling better. Emotionally, supportive relationships actually change your hormonal response to pressure, increasing oxytocin and reducing cortisol. Behind the scenes of every composed individual is often an invisible network of people who provide perspective, encouragement, and a safe space to process difficulties. The transformation happens on multiple levels. Practically speaking, trusted friends or colleagues can offer alternative viewpoints that break you out of tunnel vision during pressure situations. Emotionally, they provide reassurance that your worth isn't tied to a single performance or outcome. And neurologically, positive social connections activate reward centers in your brain that counterbalance the stress response, helping you maintain access to your full cognitive capabilities. This social dimension connects beautifully to another untapped resource in your pressure management journey: learning from role models. Throughout history and in our everyday lives, certain individuals demonstrate remarkable composure under pressure. These pressure masters aren't superhuman. They've simply developed and integrated specific skills, mindsets, and practices that you can study and adapt. The hidden truth is that composure under pressure is learnable, not innate. When you deliberately observe how a respected colleague handles tough questions during presentations, how a public figure maintains dignity during controversy, or how a friend navigates personal challenges with grace, you're gathering valuable data for your own pressure toolkit. Notice their body language, their pacing, their word choice, their breathing patterns. All these elements contribute to their composed presence. This observational learning leads naturally to a profound mindset shift that liberates you from one of the greatest pressure amplifiers: perfectionism. Many high achievers inadvertently create unnecessary pressure by setting unrealistic standards that no human could consistently meet. The revelation here is that perfectionism isn't actually about excellence. It's about fear. Fear of criticism, fear of not measuring up, fear of rejection. When you replace perfectionism with a commitment to excellence, you create space to breathe, learn, and perform at your sustainable best. Excellence acknowledges humanity and growth. It recognizes that value comes from the journey, not just the destination. This shift doesn't lower your standards. It actually raises your effectiveness by removing the paralysis that perfectionism often creates. Consider how differently you might approach a high-stakes situation if your goal was to do this skillfully, learning and adjusting as I go, versus to do this perfectly with zero mistakes. The pressure differential is enormous, yet the outcome might actually be better with the first approach because you remain adaptable rather than rigid, engaged rather than fearful. What pressure role model inspires you with their composure and capability? Share in the comments. I admire how person's name handles pressure by, and tell us what specific quality or technique you've noticed in their approach. This shift from perfectionism to excellence connects directly to another powerful pressure management strategy that's often overlooked: the strategic use of breaks. There's a pervasive myth in our achievement-oriented culture that pushing through intensity without pausing demonstrates strength and commitment. The reality is quite the opposite. The most effective performers in high-pressure domains, from emergency room surgeons to crisis negotiators to elite athletes, understand the transformative power of strategic pauses. Even in the most intense situations, a 30-second breathing pause, a 5-minute walk, or simply stepping away to get a glass of water can create a crucial reset for your nervous system. These micro breaks aren't escaping responsibility. They're strategic interventions that prevent the downward spiral of stress, hormones that cloud judgment and diminish performance. Behind the scenes of seemingly superhuman composure is often this disciplined practice of stepping back to step up more effectively. The hidden truth is that our brains process information differently when we give them even brief periods of rest. Solutions that seem impossible during intense focus often emerge naturally during these strategic pauses. It's similar to how the answer to a challenging problem sometimes appears when you stop trying to force it. Your brain continues working behind the scenes when given the space to do so. This practice of strategic breaks aligns beautifully with another foundational mindset for pressure mastery, approaching challenges through the lens of growth rather than evaluation. When you view pressure situations as opportunities to learn and develop rather than tests that determine your worth, the entire experience transforms. The same external circumstances produce an entirely different internal response. With a growth mindset, every high-stakes situation becomes a data-gathering opportunity. Success provides information about what works well, while difficulties offer even more valuable feedback about where you can improve. This perspective creates psychological safety even in challenging moments because the focus shifts from judgment to curiosity, from fear of failure to interest in the process. Imagine approaching your next pressure situation thinking, whatever happens here, I'll learn something valuable that makes me more effective next time. Feel how different that is from, I have to get this perfect or it's a disaster. The pressure doesn't disappear entirely, nor would you want it to, but it becomes productive tension rather than paralyzing fear. This growth-oriented perspective connects powerfully with another mental technique used by pressure masters, creating psychological distance through perspective taking. When you're in the grip of pressure, everything can feel overwhelmingly immediate and consequential. By deliberately shifting your perspective, you activate different neural networks that provide clarity and calm. Try asking yourself, how will I feel about this situation 5 years from now? Or, what would I tell a friend facing this exact circumstance? Or even, how would someone I admire handle this moment? These questions create psychological distance that engages the rational, problem-solving parts of your brain rather than the emotional, reactive regions that often dominate during pressure. This perspective shift isn't denying the importance of the situation. It's placing it in a broader context that allows you to respond rather than merely react. Have you ever used perspective taking to help manage pressure? Comment with, "My perspective shift technique is," and share what works for you when you need to gain some mental distance from overwhelming situations. This perspective shifting ability connects to another powerful pressure management tool that's often overlooked: appropriate humor. There's something almost magical about finding lightness during tense moments. It's not about making jokes that diminish the importance of a situation, but rather about accessing that uniquely human capacity to find irony, absurdity, or playfulness even during challenging circumstances. The transformation that occurs when tension breaks through laughter is both psychological and physiological, literally changing your brain chemistry in an instant. Think about those moments when someone makes a gentle joke during a tense meeting, or when you can laugh at yourself after making a minor mistake. That brief moment of levity doesn't just feel good emotionally. It actually interrupts the stress cascade in your body, reducing cortisol and triggering the release of endorphins. Behind the scenes, humor is creating a biochemical shift that enhances your cognitive flexibility and creative problem-solving abilities. The hidden truth is that appropriate humor isn't a sign of taking things lightly. It's often a profound indicator of emotional resilience and perspective. Those who can maintain their sense of humor during pressure situations aren't ignoring reality. They're demonstrating a sophisticated capacity to hold multiple truths simultaneously. This is important, and I don't need to be consumed by it. This balanced perspective connects beautifully to another powerful practice for pressure mastery: reflective journaling. There's something almost alchemical that happens when you transfer swirling thoughts and emotions from your mind onto paper. The research is clear that writing about high-pressure experiences, both before they occur and after they've passed, creates measurable improvements in how you process and respond to them. Before an anticipated pressure situation, journaling helps you identify specific concerns, develop contingency plans, and clarify your intentions. After a challenging experience, reflective writing helps you extract valuable lessons, recognize patterns, and consolidate new insights. The revelation here is that this simple practice creates a continuous feedback loop for improvement that many people miss when they simply try to move on from difficult moments without processing them. This reflective practice naturally builds your self-awareness about how pressure typically affects you, your common thoughts, physical reactions, and behavioral tendencies. With this awareness comes greater choice in how you respond, which leads us to another game-changing strategy: creating your personal emergency toolkit for intense pressure moments. Just as paramedics don't figure out how to use their equipment during an emergency, you don't want to be searching for coping strategies in the middle of an overwhelming pressure situation. The most composed individuals have specific, practiced techniques they can deploy immediately when they feel pressure mounting. This might be a particular phrase you repeat to yourself, a specific breathing pattern, a physical movement that grounds you, or even a visualization that calms your nervous system. The power of this emergency toolkit comes from its immediacy and specificity. When pressure hits and your thinking brain starts to go offline, you don't have to decide what to do. You simply activate your pre-planned response. This prevents the paralysis that often accompanies overwhelming pressure and gives you a bridge back to your rational, resourceful self. If you already have a go-to technique for your personal pressure emergency kit, share it in the comments with "My pressure circuit breaker is." I'm curious to learn what specific strategies work for you in those intense moments. This emergency toolkit connects beautifully with another profound mindset shift for pressure mastery: learning to accept uncertainty. When we examine the root of many pressure experiences, we often find an underlying resistance to the inherent unpredictability of life. The revelation that transforms your relationship with pressure is this: much of your suffering comes not from the situation itself, but from fighting against what's beyond your control. The journey toward composure under pressure inevitably leads to this wisdom: the recognition that certainty is largely an illusion. Even in the most meticulously planned endeavors, countless variables remain outside your sphere of influence. Weather changes, technology fails, people make unexpected choices, markets fluctuate. The most composed individuals aren't those who somehow control all these factors. They're the ones who have made peace with not controlling them. This acceptance isn't passive resignation. It's a powerful recalibration of where you direct your energy. Instead of wasting precious mental resources trying to control the uncontrollable, you focus intently on what you can influence: your preparation, your responses, your attitude, your next action. Behind the scenes of every pressure master is this fundamental mindset: I cannot control outcomes, but I can control my approach. This focused allocation of mental energy connects directly to another essential skill for pressure situations: strategic prioritization. When pressure mounts, our thinking typically narrows, and everything can feel equally urgent and important. This perception overwhelms our cognitive capacity and actually diminishes our effectiveness across all tasks. The Transformation comes when you develop the ability to rapidly distinguish between what truly matters in the moment and what can wait. Think of it as mental triage. Just as emergency room doctors must quickly determine which patients need immediate attention, you must learn to identify your highest leverage actions when under pressure. This isn't about ignoring responsibilities, it's about sequencing them intelligently. The hidden truth is that often, addressing just 20% of the issues in a pressure situation resolves 80% of the impact. Identifying that crucial 20% becomes your superpower. This prioritization skill builds naturally upon another cornerstone of pressure mastery, developing genuine confidence through incremental challenges. Notice that I said genuine confidence, not the fragile facade that comes from avoiding difficulties, but the earned trust in yourself that comes from facing challenges and moving through them. This is where your pressure journey becomes a deliberate practice, rather than just a response to circumstances. The revelation here is that confidence under pressure isn't a personality trait. It's the product of a specific history. When you regularly put yourself in slightly uncomfortable situations, speaking up in meetings when you'd rather stay quiet, having that difficult conversation you've been avoiding, attempting something where failure is possible but not catastrophic, you're building a reservoir of success experiences. Each of these experiences, no matter how small, becomes evidence your brain can access when facing larger challenges. I've handled difficult situations before. I can handle this one too. What's one small, slightly uncomfortable challenge you could take on this week to build your pressure confidence? Share with My Confidence Building Step Is, and let us know what deliberate practice you're committing to on your pressure mastery journey. This deliberate practice of building confidence connects to another fascinating dimension of pressure mastery, the powerful influence of your physical posture on your mental state. There's a remarkable revelation in the research that many people overlook. Your body position doesn't just reflect your internal state, it can actually create it. This bidirectional relationship between posture and psychology offers a surprisingly simple yet effective tool for transforming how you experience pressure moments. The science here is compelling. Studies show that adopting expansive, powerful postures, standing tall with shoulders back, taking up space, maintaining an open stance, triggers measurable hormonal changes in your body. Testosterone associated with confidence and assertiveness tends to increase, while cortisol, the primary stress hormone, often decreases. The transformation is both biochemical and psychological, creating a virtuous cycle that enhances your capacity to remain composed. The hidden truth is that you can deliberately harness this mind-body connection before entering high-pressure situations. Taking just 2 minutes to stand in a confident posture, even in private, like in a bathroom stall before a big meeting, can create a physiological shift that affects how you experience and respond to pressure. Behind the scenes of many confident performances is this simple yet powerful practice of embodied preparation. This physical dimension of pressure management naturally complements another crucial skill: focused attention training. One of the most disruptive effects of pressure is how it scatters your mental focus, making even familiar tasks feel overwhelming. The revelation is that attention, like any other skill, can be systematically strengthened through deliberate practice. Regular meditation, even for just 5–10 minutes daily, creates measurable changes in the brain regions responsible for attention control and emotional regulation. Similarly, structured periods of deep work, where you focus on a single task without digital interruptions, build the mental muscle that helps you maintain concentration when distractions and pressure mount. This isn't about achieving some perfect meditative state. It's about practicing the return to focus again and again, strengthening the neural pathways that support clarity under pressure. The impact of this attention training extends beyond mere concentration. It develops your capacity to notice subtle internal shifts before they escalate. This awareness becomes the foundation for another transformative pressure management skill: emotional intelligence. The ability to recognize and name your emotions as they arise gives you remarkable power over them, creating a gap between stimulus and response where choice becomes possible. When pressure hits, untrained individuals often become their emotions. I am anxious, or I am overwhelmed. With developed emotional intelligence, you can instead observe the experience. I notice anxiety arising, or I'm experiencing thoughts about being overwhelmed. This slight shift in perspective creates crucial psychological distance that prevents you from being consumed by the feeling. It's not about suppressing emotions, but rather acknowledging them with awareness that creates space for a measured response. This emotional awareness brings a profound insight. Emotions are valuable data, not directives that must be obeyed. Have you noticed how developing emotional awareness has changed your relationship with pressure? Share in the comments, "My emotional awareness helps me," and describe how recognizing your feelings has helped you stay cooler under pressure. This emotional awareness naturally enhances another powerful dimension of pressure mastery: the development of consistent preparation rituals. Behind the scenes of virtually every exceptional performer, whether in sports, business, medicine, or the arts, you'll find carefully crafted pre-performance routines. These aren't superstitious behaviors, they're strategic, psychological anchors that signal to your brain and body that you're ready to perform at your best under pressure. The transformation these rituals create is remarkable. By establishing a consistent sequence of actions before high-pressure situations, whether it's a specific way of organizing your materials, a particular visualization you always use, or a certain phrase you repeat to yourself, you're creating neurological patterns that bypass conscious thought. Your brain begins to associate these rituals with successful performance, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy of composure and effectiveness. The hidden truth is that these rituals work not by eliminating pressure, but by making it familiar. When everything else feels uncertain, your preparation routine provides a stable foundation, something you can control completely, regardless of external circumstances. This psychological sanctuary becomes increasingly valuable as the stakes of your pressure situations rise throughout your journey. This ritualized approach connects beautifully to another cornerstone of pressure mastery: the deliberate extraction of lessons from past experiences. Every high-pressure situation you encounter, whether it goes brilliantly or disastrously, contains invaluable data about your specific patterns, strengths, and growth areas. The revelation is that these lessons don't extract themselves. They require intentional reflection that most people skip in their rush to move past difficult experiences. The most composed individuals under pressure have developed a practice of regularly analyzing both successes and setbacks. They ask questions like, what triggered my pressure response? Which strategies worked well? Where did I lose focus? What surprised me? What would I do differently next time? This reflective practice transforms even negative experiences into growth opportunities, gradually building your capacity to remain centered in increasingly challenging circumstances. This consistent learning process leads to perhaps the most profound dimension of pressure mastery: staying anchored in your core values when everything around you feels chaotic. When pressure mounts, many people default to whatever will relieve the immediate discomfort, often making decisions they later regret. The transformation comes when you develop the capacity to pause, even briefly, and reconnect with what matters most to you beyond the immediate situation. Asking yourself questions like, what kind of person do I want to be in this moment? Or what will I be proud of when I look back on this? Creates a powerful compass for navigating complex pressure situations. Values provide clarity precisely when clarity is most elusive, cutting through the noise and helping you focus on what truly matters rather than what merely feels urgent. This values-based approach doesn't make pressure disappear, but it transforms how you experience it. Decisions become simpler, priorities clearer, and the gap between your best self and your pressured self begins to close. Have you ever made a difficult decision under pressure by reconnecting with your core values? Share your experience in the comments with "My values guided me when," and let us know how staying principled helped you navigate a challenging situation. This values-based foundation naturally extends to another crucial dimension of pressure mastery: developing communication skills specifically for high-stakes situations. One of the most overlooked revelations about pressure is how dramatically it changes our communication patterns. Even the most articulate individuals can find themselves struggling to express clear thoughts when stress levels rise. Words suddenly feel inadequate, thoughts become jumbled, and our delivery often becomes either overly aggressive or uncharacteristically timid. The transformation comes when you recognize this pattern and deliberately practice communicating under pressure. This means preparing and rehearsing key messages for anticipated challenging situations, but also developing general skills like pausing before responding, asking clarifying questions, and acknowledging emotions without being controlled by them. Behind the scenes of those who communicate effectively during crises is this deliberate practice. They're not naturally immune to pressure's effects on communication. They've simply trained specifically for them. This attention to how you function during pressure connects to an equally important but frequently neglected aspect of pressure mastery: how you recover afterward. The hidden truth about high performance under pressure is that it exacts a physiological and psychological cost that must be addressed. Your nervous system doesn't automatically reset after intense experiences. It requires deliberate care to return to baseline and prevent accumulated stress from carrying forward. The most resilient individuals have specific recovery plans for after pressure situations, whether that's physical movement to metabolize stress hormones, connecting with supportive people to process the experience, engaging in activities that bring joy and replenishment, or simply ensuring adequate rest. This isn't self-indulgence. It's strategic self-stewardship that ensures your pressure management system remains sustainable rather than deteriorating over time. This comprehensive approach to managing pressure before, during, and after challenging situations ultimately shapes something even more fundamental: your identity. The stories we tell ourselves about who we are powerfully influence how we behave under pressure. When you consciously develop an identity as someone who rises to challenges, supported by evidence from your growing reservoir of experiences, you create a self-fulfilling prophecy of composure. This identity-level work represents the deepest transformation in your pressure mastery journey. Rather than seeing yourself as someone who tries to handle pressure, you begin to recognize yourself as someone who thrives under pressure. This shift isn't wishful thinking, it's a deliberate recalibration of your self-concept based on the accumulated evidence of your growing capacity to navigate challenging circumstances with increasing skill. All of these dimensions of pressure mastery ultimately converge on one essential insight. True composure under pressure isn't something you activate occasionally, it's something you cultivate daily. The most pressure-proof individuals integrate small stress management practices into their regular routines, continuously strengthening their resilience muscles even when immediate challenges aren't present. This might mean starting your day with brief meditation, practicing reframing negative thoughts as they arise in ordinary situations, or deliberately seeking small challenges that stretch your comfort zone. The revelation is that pressure mastery isn't a destination, but a continuous journey of Small, consistent choices that compound over time into remarkable capacity. If you've been integrating any daily practices that have helped strengthen your pressure resilience, share your experience with My Daily Pressure Proofing Practice is. I'd love to hear what specific habits have made the biggest difference in your journey. And as we reach this point in our journey through pressure mastery, I want to acknowledge something important. This work isn't always easy. There will be moments when pressure still feels overwhelming, when your carefully practiced techniques slip away, when you react rather than respond. That's not failure. It's simply part of the learning process. Every pressure master has stories of losing their composure, and each of those moments became valuable data for their continued growth. The remarkable thing about developing composure under pressure isn't that you never feel stress. It's that you've built a relationship with pressure that allows you to work with it rather than against it. You recognize those physiological responses not as enemies, but as ancient allies that, when channeled correctly, actually enhance your performance rather than diminishing it. I hope these insights and practices serve you well in your own pressure situations. Remember that this is a continuous journey of small improvements rather than a single dramatic transformation. Each time you apply even one of these techniques, you're strengthening those neural pathways that support composure under fire. If you found value in this approach to pressure management, consider subscribing to the channel. We explore these kinds of practical psychological tools regularly, always with an eye toward what genuinely works, rather than quick fixes or surface-level advice. I'd love to hear which of these pressure management strategies resonated most strongly with you. If you've made it all the way through this exploration with me, drop a comment saying, "Pressure is my ally now," along with the technique you plan to implement first. And if you found this useful, a simple like helps others discover these tools who might be struggling with their own pressure situations. It's a small gesture that actually makes a difference in our community. Right next to this video, you'll find another exploration into mental performance that pairs beautifully with pressure management. It focuses on how to maintain focus when distractions are everywhere, a perfect complement to staying cool under pressure. Click over and join me there when you're ready to continue building your mental toolkit. Until then, remember that pressure isn't something to avoid, it's something to master. And that mastery is already within you, waiting to be developed.